everyone, welcome to ADRA Asia's podcast, While on Earth.
Happy, efficient and productive.
I'm very passionate about young people.
Currently leading the disaster risk management unit department.
Overnight is a long process.
Hello everyone, welcome to the podcast run by ADRA Asia, which we like to call While on Earth. Today with me here in our little studio is Tom. Tom, who are you?
Who am I? I'm Tom. I'm father to 3, husband to 1, and the country director of ADRA Nepal.
How did you end up in ADRA?
It's a long story, but I think ever since finishing university, I've worked within sort of the humanitarian and development relief sector. I've worked for ADRA now for about 15 years for different ADRA offices, ADRA UK, ADRA Philippines, and ADRA Nepal. Before that, I was working for the Red Cross and an INGO called MedAir. I'm not sure if we're allowed to mention other INGOs, but I worked for them for a couple of years in places like Angola and Afghanistan.
Right, so I got to know you when you were working for ADRA UK. What is the difference between working in a donor office and an implementing office? Are there big differences or essentially the same?
I think there are big differences. Certainly in my role with ADRA UK, it was very much programs focused. And I think I could have probably been a much better programs officer if I had done it the other way around.
Right.
Because I think working for ADRA UK and working for a support office, you're very much focused on the programs. But as a implementing office, there are so many other things that are going on, particularly if you are in sort of management or leadership in an implementing office. So you're balancing the programmatic priorities with HR and finance and all of these other issues.
Right. Tom, what are you passionate about?
Well, I'm passionate about many things. Like I love doing things like travel and adventure, exploring, all of these things I'm passionate about. But one of the things that draws me to ADRA is being able to deal with injustice and make a difference in the world. Not just myself, but also empowering others. I think we are fortunate working in ADRA that we get to work with communities to empower them to make a change in their lives, and working with individuals, community leaders, and all of these sort of people, and encouraging and empowering them to tackle injustices within their communities. And those are injustices that we see borne out in poverty, in disasters and conflict, and how people are affected and impacted significantly just because of the situations that they are born into. And then also as a leader in ADRA, being able to empower others to tackle injustice. I think that really excites me and motivates me in the work that I do.
Right, that's really interesting. So speaking a little bit about injustices, what are some of the contributors towards injustice?
You know, I think some of the contributors to injustice are around people's lack of opportunities. I think the more you work in our sector, the more you realize that fundamentally we are all the same. We are all human beings. We all have that inherent value of being a human being. But what differentiates me from somebody that we are trying to help is often the opportunities that they have in life and the opportunities that I have or that I have had in life. And to me, that is a real injustice in itself, because you realize that those people that ADRA is working to serve are often only in those situations because they haven't had the opportunities. And I think one of the important things that ADRA does is give people opportunities, and that helps tackle the injustice.
Have you ever come across systemic injustices in the places that you have worked?
Yeah, I think so. Like in different places that you work, you look at perhaps how some of the leaders in society are not always making decisions that are in the best interest of the wider society. You see the wealthy, you see the people who are sometimes more educated, taking advantage of situations and empowering themselves at the expense of other people. And so you see that happen a lot, either at a national level sometimes, but also in a community level.
In Nepal specifically, does ADRA work mostly with ethnic minorities, marginalized? What are the groups of people that you work with?
I think we particularly work with people who are marginalized, people who are at the bottom of the ladder in many ways. Legally there is not a caste system, but still in society people are segregated into these different castes, and so if you are born into a particular position in society, that is where you remain ultimately, and you are then very disadvantaged by that. We also work a lot with other groups that are disadvantaged, whether that is are women who are disadvantaged because of their role in society or their position in society. We work with people with disabilities who don't have the same opportunities as others in society. And so for ADRA it is important to focus on these people, whether they be marginalized people or disadvantaged people.
Right. So while you work with the communities, do you see the need for any policy changes, any high-level intervention? So I'm just recalling the laws that were passed in the US on affirmative action, for example. It's been debated quite a bit, but it was passed specifically with the intention to reverse that, or to give people of minorities more chances. Now that's affirmative action itself is debatable, and I think it's a big discussion in the US, but I think building from that sentiment, do you see the need for something like that in Nepal to change things around a little bit?
I think ADRA, we typically, and where we have a lot of experience, is working at the community level, working with the individual and the household, working in different communities. But one of the things that we've been able to do quite a bit in Nepal is also work with the federal government and work on issues that require changes to policy. And whether that is around family planning or women's health, by working with the government and supporting them in identifying what maybe needs to be adapted or taken into account at policy level, we're able to then have a much wider impact. So it's incredibly important work that we do, not just in terms of the supporting policy change and making sure that the policy is there, but also looking at how that policy is implemented and making sure the policy is implemented fairly, making sure that it is well costed and can be implemented effectively by the government and by different development actors.
How do you make sure that our staff are also not part of this discrimination? Because I imagine when we have staff, they also may have these cultural concepts embedded in them, and now they have to more or less work differently with these people that in their minds could be lesser value. Do you have challenges like that? What do you do to overcome that within our team?
I think all of us can have different biases. We're born with different biases, or certainly brought up with different biases. And what I found important is that we focus on particular values. And as a team, it's important to focus on the values and the why behind what we do, rather than just going and doing the work. I think as a team, it's important to reflect on what is important to us and reflect on the values that we have. In different places, I've been extremely fortunate to work with a whole wide range of different people from different backgrounds, different religions, no religion at all. But ultimately, we share many of the same values. And I think by focusing on those common values, values of compassion, values of justice and love, those sort of values that we all have in common, I think if we can focus on those values then influence our actions, they influence the way we think.
Don't you think you put yourself at risk sometimes working on behalf of justice?
I think you could look at it like that, but I think if we don't step out, even if it's just out of our comfort zone, we're not doing the right thing. I think we all have a responsibility that when we recognize injustice, when we recognize things that are not right, we should all be standing up and either saying something or doing something about it. And sometimes that can be uncomfortable. Sometimes it risks you being seen by people who are perhaps more influential or powerful, not in a good light. But the responsibility is on us to speak up for minorities and speak up for the disadvantaged. So whilst it may be uncomfortable, it may put you at risk, some sort of risk, I think it's really important that we always speak up.
One more question. If you had a superpower, what would it be and what would you use it for?
I was watching the Spider-Man movie with my children the other day, and I was watching Spider-Man sort of swinging from building to building, and I thought that would be an incredible superpower to have. I'm not sure that would be the most responsible superpower as an ADRA worker. But having said that, I don't think we actually need superpowers. I think we just need to stand up and be true to ourselves, true to our values, particularly when we are tackling things like injustice. It doesn't take much, but it does require us to stand up and do the right thing and to see those around us as people, as human beings. And I think if we can do that, if we can all do that, or even a good group of us can do that, then I think we can make a real difference.
Tom, thank you very much for making time to be on the show, and I hope we could chat again soon. Thank you very much.
Sounds good. Thank you, Prabhak.
To all our viewers, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, please do so now and join us on our next episode. Bye for now.